I want to take Jaycee Horn out of the sequestered corner that I and many fans have put him in, because there's so many questions about this roster, about the Panthers roster. The quarterback, the offensive line, the wide receiver hierarchy, Jonathon Brooks, like the defense, didn't even get there yet. So many questions. We kind of just put Jaycee Horn off to the side and go, he's really good. He just needs to stay healthy. Boom. That's all we got. You just put him in the corner, and then you can move on to bigger problems, right? This year is a big year for Jaycee Horn, and there is more conversation that should be happening about him, not just because he's very talented, but because the team has to make a decision on him. They already picked up his 5th-year option. He's going into his 4th year, so they have 2 more years of control. But as we've seen with Brian Burns, as we've seen with many others, we don't want, if I'm talking about it's the team, you don't want to go through a 5th-year option without either the knowledge that you're not bringing him back or a signed contract from at least the previous offseason. Jaycee Horn has played, I say played kind of loosely, 3 seasons in the NFL. And the reason why I say played loosely is because he's been hurt for big chunks of that entire run, like every year.
He's missed more games than he's played.
Which is kind of the equivalent of like what you saw with obviously non-quarterback, but like a Jordan Love situation where he sits on the bench, then he plays a little bit, and then boom, right away you have to make a decision on whether you want to make him the highest paid quarterback in the league or not. Right? And you're just going, man, I wish we would have been able to see 2 or 3 years of this before we decided to break the bank for him. Jaycee Horn, while not completely sitting, hasn't been able to show what he can do over a full season. That's what he has to do this year. There's an article on ESPN written by David Newton, ESPN.com, with some quotes, and I'm going to read a few. Ejiro Evero, their defensive coordinator, says this about Bryce Young. In our opinion, he's one of the top corners in this league. He's the type of guy you can put on one side and move coverage from him and put him on the toughest matchup on the other team. We're just not as good when he's not on the field. End of quote. I'm going to now act out the internal monologue of Jaycee Horn's agent as he read that clip. Money, 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 money. You say you're not as good when he's off the field. Well, how much would it be worth to you to keep him on your field and not on some other defensive team's field? Jordan Matthews, his teammate, the 30-plus-year-old tight end veteran, been around the league, said this in the article. I call him 100 million Horn because that's how much he's worth. I'm just praying for health over him so he can show people what he can really do. 100 million Horn. Agent, there he goes again. What's the nickname they're calling you? Awesome. Tell him to keep that up anytime coach is around. David Newton then said this. This is from the reporter covering the Panthers for ESPN. The Panthers believe Horn is one of their cornerstones, and according to multiple sources with knowledge of the situation, are preparing to pay top dollar to keep him. Here's my advice on the Jaycee Horn situation. Continue preparing to pay him top dollar. Make sure you have the cap space. Make sure you are ready to sign that check. Continue preparing. But understand that you are not committed to paying him top dollar until you sign that contract. You have gather information. Watch this year. He's out there. By the way, I love what he's done in camp. He was my confidence yesterday in Cons and Cons, him and Deontay Johnson and their relationship, iron sharpening iron as a wide receiver in a corner. I like what Jaycee Horn is. If he gets hurt week 5 and is out for the season, do not give him top dollar. If he has a great 5-game stretch, do not give him top dollar. Wait and see if it continues. Wait till next offseason. You have time. Right? Everything in the article made it sound like they had made their decision to pay him. You're allowed to change your mind. I know it's And I hate it in this industry that we're in. I hate it in some of the actual running team industries. Changing your mind is not some sign of weakness, right? Like, for example, we made our ACC championship game picks today.
We did.
I picked NC State. If NC State comes out week 1 and loses to Western Carolina, which this is obviously an exaggerated for effect hypothetical. If they come out and lose to Western Carolina week 1, I'm not going to sit there between week 1 and week 2 and go, they're still my pick. I'm not flip-flopping because I have conviction in my opinions. I'll probably go, in light of new information, I would like to change my pick. Now, I'll admit my preseason pick was wrong, but I'm going to try to get my between week 1 and week 2 pick right.
Opinions are allowed to change when you have more information.
Sometimes it's like you draft a player in the second round, they stink for 3 years. Coaches are still keeping them on the roster because they're like, I used a pick on him. I'm going like, well, now you're just compounding mistakes.
Are you describing Terrace Marshall Jr.? Is that what you're doing right now?
I was actually thinking it in reverse because I vividly recall Bill Belichick in the middle of the dynasty cutting like a second rounder after 16 months on the team. And I was just going like, he knew, so he made the move, but there's not many coaches with job security that can do that because, you know, if you just cut a guy after 16 weeks, you're just screaming, I was wrong. Prepare now to pay Jaycee Horn because, right, if for some reason there was like a deadline and you had to decide today, you'd pay him, but you don't. So watch the season, right? Week 1, match him up with Chris Olave. Right? See if he ends up being that guy all season that can lock down the opposing team's number 1. If he does that, hit next offseason with a Brinks truck, right? Then everything you've been preparing for, you just press execute, right? It's you have the glorious advantage of getting the opportunity to see him play a season. If this happened, like if there wasn't a 5th-year option, if this was his final year, you probably would have to make a decision right now, or at least much earlier. I'm a big fan of Jaycee Horn. I think he is wildly talented. I think he has all of the physical tools you need to be a lockdown corner. I'm excited for it. I also acknowledge he hasn't done it for a full season. And there is a difference between looking good over 7 games and looking good over 18 weeks, 17 games. So give yourself the out, right? I'm planning to pay him, but I might not.
Little contingency.
Yes.
There's a contingency, and that's okay.
And his agent...
Pay him contingent upon you being available.
His agent might, wait, last offseason when we talked, you said you did... And you're going to go, yeah, but then the week 4 game happened, and then did you see what Mike Evans did to him? And then, and you can fire back and say, in light of new information, I've changed my opinion. NFL, everybody says it's a results-based business. It's what have you done for me lately? Feel free to make those 2 cliches true. Or maybe save a little dough, right? We were prepared to pay him top dollar, but after another injury, we're now going to give you $5 million less per year than top dollar, but a shorter-term deal because you want to gain more information, right? Feel free to let it change. This is a big year for Jaycee Horn, and not just because he's good, because he also has things to prove. So just wait around and see if he proves them. It's kind of that simple. Be patient. Be willing to change your mind. These are personality traits that just are not celebrated anymore.
No.
Everybody wants decisive right now and convicted in your opinions. No matter how wrong they are, you back them up. I'm saying be the exact opposite. Be patient, gather every bit of information you can, and be willing to say I was wrong. Sometimes I think that's how insiders get burned. Insiders, right, like the reporters. Mm-hmm. They're like, I got good information. I don't know, the Niners are going to trade Ayuk to the Steelers, and they tweet it out, and then it doesn't happen, and they're like, everyone, oh, you're a loser, oh, you're wrong, your reporting's always bad, when it might just be One of the teams changed their mind. They were sending it. They had agreed to it. And then one said, actually, we're having cold feet. I know I said I would, but now I'm not going to. And it's like now the insider looks foolish.
Well, I'm saying doesn't mean their information was wrong. It's like, hey, they agreed. Doesn't mean they actually went through with it.
Exactly. I think guys get burned when you recognize teams can change their mind, players can change their mind. Until ink is dry, you don't have to be locked into anything.
This is where you save yourself. Agreed in principle.
Yeah, exactly. Moving towards a deal.